All right, so let's take a look at NBC and CNN. So NBC actually had a unique. NBC had a interview with Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman, who is running against Dr. Oz. Okay. And John Fetterman is, for those of you who don't know, is still currently recovering from a stroke. And there was a full interview. There was a full interview that happened, right? There's a full interview that took place.
Now we focus on the Democratic candidate in another close Senate race, this one in Pennsylvania.
But the full interview itself was not what actually ended up making the headlines, okay? What ended up making the fucking headlines was NBC and CNN both being weirdly fucking gross and ableist. Because John Fetterman is now hard of hearing. Okay? As a consequence of the stroke, he's hard of hearing. So he needed closed captioning technology in the NBC News interview. So they literally fucking mentioned it as though it was an own. Which I think is fucking wild. Like, as ableist as I am, as pro-ableism as I am when it comes to cognitive functions decreasing. Okay? I've always maintained the position that, like, if you're blind or if you need a wheelchair, if you're deaf, like, that does not impair you from being in a position of power, being in Congress. When I say I'm ableist, I'm talking about degenerative cognitive functions, like Joe Brandon's dementia or Ronald Reagan's dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy that the NBC interview, however, made it seem like this was a big fucking deal. So much so that Southpaw and others were very upset with this. He says, I dislike watching NBC News, a giant agenda-setting institution, and its reporter deliberately fixate on and exoticize Fetterman's straightforward accommodations for his disability. I wish it wasn't like this in America. Dasha Burns, the person who actually did the fucking interview, conducted the interview, Senate quite literally had this to say after the interview immediately.
Race in Pennsylvania, now considered a toss-up. Our Dasha Burns spoke with Democrat John Fetterman in his first in-person sit-down interview since he suffered a stroke. And Dasha, this was not a typical candidate interview.
No, Lester, because of his stroke, Fetterman's campaign required closed captioning technology for this interview to essentially read our questions as we ask them. And Lester, in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it wasn't clear he was understanding our conversation. Can voters trust that you will be able to do this job on?
Like, that's crazy. Motherfucker, I'm Turkish, okay? Turkish is my first language. All right? English is my second language. I need closed captioning when I'm watching movies and shit. Or else I can't fucking comprehend every single word that's being said. And I don't have a fucking hearing disability or anything like that. There are plenty of people that need it. Okay? There are plenty of people that need it. There are people whose first language is English and they need it. Being hard of hearing or having some kind of like hearing impairment is not an own. What the fuck?
On day one.
Yeah, of course.
This is Pennsylvania Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman's first in-person sit-down interview since a stroke sidelined him from the campaign trail for months.
That auditory processing where I'll hear someone speaking, but sometimes I'll be able to be precise on what exactly that they're saying. I use captioning.
His campaign required that he be allowed to use a transcription program on his computer during our interview.
I always thought I was pretty empathetic, emphatic. I think I was very, empathetic. That's an example of the stroke, empathetic. Yeah. I always thought I was very empathetic before having a stroke. But now after having that stroke, I really understand much more kind of the challenges that Americans have day in and day out.
So you say you're on the road to full recovery, but right now, voters really have to take your word for it.
That's crazy. Like, I get that this is definitely a thing that is important, right? Like, This is certainly a thing that people are questioning. Like, people want to know because he is recovering from a stroke. Like, is he capable of doing it? But when you're in person with this person and you realize that they are capable of forming coherent thoughts and they're having this conversation, but they need, like, accommodations for their hearing. That's crazy. Like, this is like, did the Oz campaign pay for this? Like, it just reads like a fucking hit piece, man. What the fuck?
We've asked for your medical records. We've asked to have a conversation with someone from your medical team, to interview your physician. You've declined those requests. Why?
Well, I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways. When our doctor has already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running.
I mean, respectfully, that letter from your physician, that was 6 months ago. Don't voters deserve to know your status now?
Being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, if they think that it's really the issue.
Polls show Fetterman's lead is shrinking against Republican Dr. Mehmet Oz. It's now a toss-up race that could determine control of the Senate.
Bro, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. This is actually fucking insane. NBC's literally cutting a hit job. No mention of policies. No mention of Dr. Oz. That's crazy. That NBC, by the way, supposedly, liberal or unbiased or liberal. Once again, I got to repeat liberal twice. You said first time? No, but like, oh my God. It's wild to see this, dude. It's wild to fucking see this in action. This is totally wrong. Fetterman understood and answered all questions. It's comically stupid to suggest that the voters care about him being able to debate on the Senate floor. When does that happen? He's not a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. Dude, that's crazy. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Yeah, why are you defending awful, disgusting, no good, slight, hard of hearing people? Shame. Yeah, disgusting of me. It's so funny because I've talked about being ableist to candidates so much. And every single time I bring that up, I literally will show the caveat. I will always explain that I'm not talking about ableism in the form of like, a hearing aid or a walking aid or not being able to see. I mean like literally fucking cognitive abilities. And they are unironically like, nah, fuck that. We are ableist across the board. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can't hear well? Well, fuck you then. You said it in the Navarra interview, I remember. It's not even a fucking toss-up. It's not. He's saying that, like, Fetterman's lead is shrinking. Okay? That's a 6-point fucking lead, man. That's crazy. I completely agree with you, but just to be a little fair, strokes are a big deal. Dude, of course. Of course strokes are a big deal. That's why I said it's understandable to ask one question about that and then fucking move on. But it's not like he's not doing campaign stops across Pennsylvania. What are you talking about? How are you going to make your main takeaway here whether or not John Fetterman is fit to fucking serve and then hyper focus on him needing hearing aids? Especially when the entirety of the Senate is composed of literal people with their brains leaking out of their fucking ears. Herschel Walker is running for Herschel Walker is running for Senate. And he is a walking billboard for CTE, okay? I've never heard Herschel Walker get up, stand up, and explain something from point A to point B without like going off on a fucking tangent about cows and bull penises and abortions. Dianne fucking Feinstein was removed from her committee position. Even her fucking aides are literally like, yeah, I'm not going to lie, dog. She's kind of old. She should probably not do this anymore. And then she went and said, it's possible, sorry to say I talked to John Fetterman over for an hour without stop or any aides, and this is just nonsense. Maybe this reporter's just bad at small talk. It's possible for two different reporters to have two different experiences with a candidate. Our team was in the room with him, reported what happened in it, as journalists do. Before and after closed captioning was on. Our full interview is now available to watch. That's crazy, man. She fucking doubled down on it. God damn. Even Tommy Vitor and the libs over at Crooked Media are like, this is totally wrong. Fetterman understood and answered all questions. It's comically stupid to suggest that voters care about him being able to debate on the Senate floor. No, I think voters will care a little bit about the aesthetics of the situation. But if you're an honest news broadcaster, your job isn't to literally fucking jump and direct the conversation in that way, unless you're just cutting opposition research. We were happy to accommodate closed captioning. Our reporting did not and should not comment on fitness for office. This is for voters to decide. What we do push for as reporters is transparency. It's our job. Fetterman sat down and answered our question. That's his job. I'm so mad. I work for a senator. They can't even go to the bathroom by themselves. Not that they are not physically capable, just that they're used to someone being at their assistance at all times. He will get support he needs like every other senator. But that's not even the real disability that John Fetterman has is not his fucking hearing aids, okay? The real disability that John Fetterman has is that he's a little bit more to the left than the average Democratic Party candidate, even when the Democratic Party has basically conceded after their primary opportunities in usurping him, okay? When all that fucking failed, they had to basically concede, like, this is a free seat in Pennsylvania. We got to take what we can get here, okay? So that's his real disability. That's his real problem, okay? Keck W chatters immediately as soon as I said the real disability that John Fetterman has, chat lit up saying he's bald. Okay, yes, balding visibility. Yes, that is a disability. We're not going to use ableist language like bald. We're going to say follically impaired. He isn't backing down. Recovering from a stroke in public isn't easy, but in January, I'm going to be much better, and Dr. Oz will still be a fraud. Yeah, I mean, this shit's fucking wild, man. It's wild. It's wild. I can't get over
Republicans focusing on crime. In particular, Fetterman's votes on the parole board.
Fetterman says he's trying to get as many criminals out.
I love the Fetterman attack ads because he looks so fucking badass, by the way. And they're trying to hit him from both angles. Okay? They're trying to hit him from both angles. They're trying to say that he wants to release every violent criminal psychopath into your fucking suburb, okay? But then also he's like, and he's a vigilante who, like, chased after a black man with a shotgun. Which is insane. Like, how do you get both? How do you do both? Motherfucker looks like a bounty hunter. You're saying he is a bounty hunter while simultaneously saying he wants to release every single fucking criminal. Why? Does he want to fucking chase him himself? Is that why he wants to release every criminal? Because that's what this attack ad makes it seem like. It literally makes it seem like John Fetterman wants every criminal to be released so he can take the law into his own hands. And like Pennsylvanians are going to look at this and go, God damn, that's my candidate. He's about to... The vulnerability of John Fetterman. He's trying to flip Pennsylvania's open Senate seat while fending off a celebrity doctor and recovering from a stroke that almost killed him. Jesus Christ. Isn't it interesting how Biden had 2 brain aneurysms and the media never talked about it, but it was totally fair game to attack Bernie for his heart attack and now Fetterman for his stroke? Seems like there are no rules when it comes to attacking left-leaning candidates. Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
Out of prison as he can.
Including votes in favor of paroling convicted murderers.
Are you soft on crime?
Of course not. I'm actually effective on crime, and I believe in second chances, and I've run on that record.
Meanwhile, Fetterman going after Dr. Oz on abortion rights.
Dr. Oz likes to make fun of me that I might miss a word, but he's missed 2 words, and that is a yes or no on the national abortion ban. If you're going to be our next senator, you have to give the answer.
Lester, Fetterman told us he is committed to debating Dr. Oz on October 25th, where he will also be using closed captioning.
Damn, fucking got his ass, dude. You really did. Be a little bit more ableist. Be like, yeah, fucking find NBC looking for new and creative and unique ways to shit on deaf people. We got a lot for the blind, but let's hear it for the deaf folks. You know what I mean? This fucking deafy. Crazy. Actually fucking crazy. I can't believe it, dude.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman just gave his first in-person, on-camera interview since having a stroke 5 months ago. Fetterman showed NBC News how he uses closed captioning to read questions in real time to overcome the physical.
This is something that the media does all the time, okay? It's a very effective way of, like, manufacturing drama, okay? The media does this. We see it as a microcosm within, like, the Twitch sphere as well, where, like, you will pick something, you will create drama and tension out of it, okay? No matter how fucking ridiculous or how frivolous it is. And then instead of like analyzing whether or not it's frivolous or ridiculous, you will then go up and say, many people are saying it's controversial. And then you further the narrative that way. You just move on from whether or not that was even adequate to the next stage, which is a lot of people are shocked by John Fetterman not being able to hear well. It's like, what do you mean? Are we? I'm more shocked that you're making a big deal out of this.
Effects of his stroke. Robert Costa has the latest on this story.
Can voters trust that you will be able to do this job on day one?
Yeah, of course.
In a recent interview with NBC News, which aired yesterday, Pennsylvania's Democratic Senate nominee John Fetterman was seen using a closed captioning device.
We got him, boys.
As in some settings since his stroke in May.
That auditory processing where I'll hear someone speaking, but sometimes I'll be able to be precise on what exactly that they're saying. I use captioning.
The interview was the latest prism into the Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor's recovery process, which has become a political target in one of the nation's key Senate races, with Republican Mehmet Oz pressing Fetterman to disclose more about his health.
I'm calling on John Fetterman.
Fetterman's campaign has disclosed his use of the captioning technology several times since he began his post-stroke media interviews.
I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways when our doctor has already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running.
I mean, respectfully, that letter from your physician, that was 6 months ago. Don't voters deserve to know your status?
What do you think? His hearing is worsened over 6 months? Like, what happened in that process? In the process of 6 months, he literally got out of the fucking hospital and started doing a Pennsylvania-wide, statewide tour. He got better. What do you mean? Well, 6 months has happened. Like, he's still recovering while simultaneously touring the fucking state. And she's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you got worse secretly. I can't get over it, man.
This now.
Being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, if they think that it's really the issue.
After the interview aired Tuesday night, Fetterman's campaign said in a statement, John is healthy and he also still has a lingering auditory processing issue that his doctors expect will go away, adding he's been transparent and talking openly about his health, while also showing voters how this closed caption technology helps him communicate more effectively.
All eyes now turn to the October 25th debate between Fetterman and Oz in Harrisburg, which will be the one debate in the race. Several national Democratic strategists told CBS News last night that Fetterman's recovery will be a variable on that stage and for the rest of the race. But they're confident that alarm over the future of abortion rights and questions over Oz's ties to Trump could lift Fetterman's chances in the swing suburban areas around Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. President Biden will weigh in soon, hosting a fundraiser for Fetterman next week in Philadelphia. Tony.
That's what I mean. This is just straight wild. More on this, by the way. They're still talking about this. They brought in Dr. Sanjay Gupta on fucking CNN. Developing story. Fetterman now uses closed captioning to understand conversations. Fucking got him.
Let me show you here something. The stroke, which was on May 13th, so about 5 months ago, seemed to have affected his ability to sort of comprehend or
mainstream media is going harder on deaf people right now, or the hearing impaired people, than me when the 700th time some motherfucker asked, can you please turn on closed captioning? Which, by the way, ironically, as much as I yell, I'm always fucking accommodating because I myself need closed captioning.
Understand spoken speech. So what he seems to be doing then is then sort of relying more on his visual part of his brain, which is back here, to read the words. And then he's responding pretty quickly. So, we don't, as you heard there, we don't know what his medical records show. We don't know how much this affected him immediately after his stroke. So what his recovery has looked like so far. What's interesting.
God damn, dude. Doesn't all Fox News viewer base have the same hearing problems as Fetterman? I mean, they're all like 70 plus. I mean, they're way worse than that. It's just, it's wild to fucking turn, and it is truly wild to turn this into a much larger point of contention than it actually is, or that it actually needs to be. Okay? That's insane. Like this kind of the out-of-pocket behavior is it has to be purposely done. I can't believe that there is no reason to this. Or the reason is just like purely the interest the media has in like seeing blood. There's no fucking way. So aggro. So insanely aggro. Biden's Department of Labor, AOC on the council, Dennis Prager on incest, Ben Shapiro on Kanye West, Amazon workers from at least 5 facilities in Georgia, California, Illinois going strike during Prime Week this week. I don't know. I just Rick Caruso on being Italian.
You had a stroke just days before the primary here. This is the first time you've sat down with a journalist in person. You have closed captioning technology to help with those auditory processing issues. Will this impact how you do your job if elected? For example, will you need potentially accommodations like this on the Senate floor?
Why would that impact his job performance, dude? Why? Why would that impact his? That's just straight ableism.
I don't think it's going to have an impact. I feel like I'm going to get better and better every day. And by January, I'm going to be, much better. And Dr. Oz is still going to be a fraud, but, I guess what I'm saying is that
Bro, she's just asking, stop. Brother, that's an insane question to ask. You understand that, right? That question inherently is an ableist question. Needing fucking hearing aids on the Senate floor is not going to render. It's quite literally the exact same thing as like going up to like Greg Abbott or Tammy Duckworth and being like, is it going to impact your performance that you need walking aids? Okay? That's a ridiculous question. I fucking despise Greg Abbott, but that's a psychotic question to ask. That has never been a point of contention for anyone. It literally doesn't matter. It's like coming to me and be like, you need glasses. Will that impair? You need glasses. Does that impact your job performance? I'm like, no. At the top of the hour, I still serve the fucking ads. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 6-second ad break. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free. I can see that the top of the hour ad break is upon us with or without the glasses. Okay? And if you want to see an uninterrupted broadcast experience, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub. If you're lucky, here's the 1-minute ad break now.
really isn't anything that's going to stop me from doing this job.
I mean, it took you a long time to get back on the campaign trail. Can voters trust that you will be able to do this job on day one?
Yeah, of course. I think that the campaign itself is incredibly difficult, and even with or without having the stroke as an issue. But I've been able to run a successful campaign despite having the issues with auditory processing, et cetera. So I believe I'm going to be able to serve effectively. You've been on this road of recovery. I'm sure it hasn't been easy. This is a serious health.
Daily Beast piling on too. Yes, man. Yes. The fucking Clintonites are out, dude. What the fuck? Like, let's be real. The Daily Beast is basically like the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, like the most liberal side of the Democratic Party, right? But it's wild. Like, Brandon is the fucking president, man. Top of the hour bot gave me a 8.47 out of 10, by the way. Let's fucking go, boys. We're out here. In the primaries, and they are ripping into fucking Dr. Oz. Like, the Daily Beast has been ripping into Dr. Oz relentlessly. Sometimes going too far, in my estimation, as someone who doesn't even like Dr. Oz, right? I have openly stated that some of the Daily Beast articles were fucking ridiculous. And now they're just ripping into John Fetterman, which is a weird change of pace here. Very suspicious.
Condition. This is a serious health issue that you experienced. What has that recovery process been like? How has it changed your day-to-day experience? It's everything. It changes everything. Yeah. Everything about it has changed. Basically, having a conversation with your wife, to having a conversation with your children, just things, especially early after the stroke. The ability to really understand exactly what I'm being heard but it gets much, much better where I take in a lot. But to be precise, I use captioning. So that's really the major challenge. And every now and then I'll miss a word every now and then, or sometimes I'll maybe mush two words together. But as soon as I have captioning, I'm able to understand exactly what's being asked. But even after the stroke, immediately after that, I was able to read everything, and I haven't lost any memories or anything like that. It's just really the lingering issue that I have. Yeah, I mean, I know before this, you've admitted you hadn't really thought about your health very much. You hadn't taken great care of yourself. What's it like now for you? Is there some frustration in having to face this, every day? It's not frustration. It's just a challenge, actually.
Sir, what do you have to say to the fact that we see your knees and ankles quite regularly and you dress up awfully? Sir, what do you have to say for that? Many people are saying you wear Carhartt a lot, and we find that to be distasteful, particularly.
I always thought I was pretty empathetic, emphatic. I think I was very, empathetic. That's an example of the stroke, empathetic. I always thought I was very empathetic before having a stroke. But now after having that stroke, I really understand, much more kind of the challenges that Americans have day in and day out. So I think it's really reminded me that, one, how critical healthcare is, because healthcare saved my life. I wouldn't have survived if I didn't have the kind of healthcare that I have. And it also, the support that I get going to having speech therapy and just making sure getting back to being to 100%. Those are the kind of resources everyone deserves to get, because strokes can have to anybody.
I mean, when you have moments like you had just now where you had a hard time getting a word out, right? How does that feel for someone who, as a politician, a lot of what you do is talk to constituents, talk to your colleagues, right? What's that experience like of just not quite being able to get the words out in the way that you want them to?
4 minutes, the first 4 minutes of this entire interview has revolved around how fucking disabled John Fetterman is. I'm losing my mind. I thought there was more to it. I wanted to watch it because I was like, maybe it's just like short hits that they covered. Maybe it's just short hits that they covered, and are hyper focusing on. No, man. What is this, the whole interview? This is insanity, bro. This is actually fucking insane. This won't tip the scales, right? He's still on track to winning. I think if he should go balls to the wall and be like lying fake news media. He will literally win he will win every polling station in Pennsylvania. If he was like, look at what the lying NBC fake news media is doing to me because I'm an anti-establishment candidate. Yeah, I can work with Joe Brandon. I'm a Democrat. But let's be real. It's because of my closeness to the average Pennsylvanian that media elites like those in the No Bitches channel, NBC, are attacking me relentlessly. Okay? I'm recovering from a stroke, and everyone in Pennsylvania knows I put my heart and soul into this goddamn state, unlike Dr. Oz, who had to fake being from this state to even run. That's why they're attacking me. Because I want what's best for Pennsylvanians. And NBC does not. Boom. He wins every county.
No, I don't think it was hard. It was just about having to be thinking more slower.
Attacking someone for a stroke when they're running for a Senate seat is not an invalid argument. Okay? Especially if that stroke has diminished their cognitive functioning. I'm sorry. You can do that. That is fair play. But if someone has demonstrably not diminished their cognitive functioning and cognitive capabilities, and they're adequately responding to your questions, but they need fucking hearing aids or some kind of hearing aid because they have some kind of hearing impairment, you can't continue on with that narrative like, well, you're deaf. Does that mean you're fucking stupid? Like, if someone is very clearly understanding, reading, responding to your questions adequately and quickly, and if someone is able to fucking tour the entire goddamn state, you can't turn around and still try to cut that fucking narrative. Then you're being gross. If you ask Joe Biden this many questions about his cognitive capabilities, he would flub. Be like, look alive, Jack Corn Pop. You ask Herschel Walker this, he would not be responding adequately. Plus, we're forgetting that Pennsylvania also has Yinzers, okay? Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania. Have you heard a motherfucker from Pittsburgh speak? Hello? Have you heard a motherfucker from Philadelphia speak? Let's keep it real. Are they even speaking English? No. But it's fine. We still act like they are. When we meet them, we say, hey, no, that's fine, man. You're doing it. Good job.
To just understand. And sometimes that's kind of the processing that happens.
So you say you're on the road to full recovery, but right now, voters really have to take your word for it. We've asked for your medical record.
Like, all I'm going to say is this, okay? This is a man coming out of Pennsylvania. If he hasn't consumed horse feces in the immediate aftermath of an Eagles win, an Eagles Super Bowl victory, or even an Eagles Super Bowl loss, okay, that means he's a cut above like 98% of Pennsylvania locals, okay? And you're out here shitting on him. Pennsylvania, also known as Pennsyltucky, as an entire state, is not all right, okay? It's not. Not all right. And here you have a guy who, as far as we know, has never eaten horse shit, okay? What is it? In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. That's it. Hasn't eaten horse shit yet. He's king.
Records. We've asked to have a conversation with someone from your medical team to interview your physician. You've declined those requests. Why?
Well, I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways. When our doctor has already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running. And then I think you can't be any more transparent than standing up on a stage.
Western PA means Steelers fans, not Eagles, no shit eating. Yeah, motherfuckers, because you got nothing. Other than, you know, Roethlisberger and a defense of Mr. Bathroom. Okay? That's all you got. The fuck do you mean, Steelers fans? Oh, we don't eat we don't eat dog shit. Well, you know, you play like dog shit. Not there anymore. I know. Who the fuck is Mr. Bathroom at me, bitch? I was talking about Ben Roethlisberger doing a sexual assault in a bathroom. You're just like me when it comes to American football. You know just enough to piss everyone off? Yes. You guys like that? People from Pittsburgh are very mad at me for saying this. I apologize. Let's continue.
With 3,000 people and having a speech without a teleprompter and just being and putting everything and yourself out there like that. I think that's as transparent as everyone in Pennsylvania can see.
I mean, respectfully.
I love when motherfuckers are like, bro, Steelers have the most Super Bowl victories, bro. What are you talking about? Yeah, I know, dude. You know what happened to Pittsburgh is the same shit that happened to the Steelers, okay? Industry left, and then their Super Bowl victories, what, 2009? Come on, motherfucker. I was going to goddamn college. That was the first year I was in America. That's the last time they won a fucking Super Bowl. Give me a goddamn break. I mean, respectfully. Motherfuckers be like, bro, 1975 was a really good year for the Steelers, though. You know what I'm saying? We had a run, brother. We had a run, baby. Late 70s, early 80s, we had a run. None of you were alive. What do you care? I'm just fucking around, by the way. I'm literally fucking around. I'm joking. You used to be good on TYT. Now you suck. Sorry I followed you. Not sure what people see in you. Controversy? Yeah, sure. Damn, bro. You got that mad that I made some jokes about fucking Pittsburgh and the Steelers? Holy shit. Homie's literally out here being like, everything you've ever said is wrong now. I am now a right-wing nationalist. It's just jokes, guys. Calm down. Nothing worse than a non-sports knower roasting you and being right. I'm just kidding, guys. Listen, as someone who lived in the awful state of New Jersey, I reserve the right to shit on Pennsylvania, okay? That's it. It's the Jersey in me. Blame it for that.
That letter from your physician, that was 6 months ago. You've talked to yourself about how this is a journey. The recovery process can be up and down. Don't voters deserve to know your status now?
As I said, being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, if they think that it's really the issue.
Pennsylvania's when I shit on Ohio, fuck yes. Oh yeah, keep going. Yeah, you're so right. Pennsylvania's when I shit on Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. Oh no, don't do that. That's fucked up. Fuck you. Hey, fuck you. I'm no longer a fucking fan. The fuck do you know? You're from New Jersey.
But the voters aren't doctors, right? I mean, look, you have styled yourself as the no bullshit candidate, right? It's why a lot of people are drawn to you. Sometimes that's easy, and sometimes, like in moments like this, that gets tested. So why not follow through on that and be fully transparent and release all of that information?
No, and I said I am putting everything tested. I am being out and being tested day in and day out. And if my doctor teams already said that I'm fine and I'm ready to go on that, then I'm not really sure that's much more beyond transparent.
But we're taking your word for what your doctors are telling you, right? We haven't heard from them in months.
Well, I mean, if they believe that I was ready to do that, and I've been able to successfully do that kind of campaigning, I think that demonstrates what they've said, and their opinions were actually pretty accurate.
And I know this is a tough conversation for you to have, but look, this isn't without precedent, right? In 2012, Senator Mark Kirk of Illinois suffered a stroke during his race. After some pressure, he released records. You've been called on by the Washington Post, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the New York Times. There are a lot of folks asking for this, so why not release the records?
As I said, I feel like, I've been very transparent to the point of what voters could make the decision on whether I'm fit to run or fit to serve.
In what way do you?
Okay, we're now 8 minutes in. We are now officially 8 minutes in, and all questions have been about, hey, why is your brain not working? Hey, many people are saying your brain's not working. Hey, is your brain not working? Okay, let me ask again. Is your brain not working? Is your brain no good? Brain no good? No good brain?
Do you think you've been transparent?
As I said, I put out an evaluation of my medical team, and I've been campaigning and going around everywhere, all across Pennsylvania, in front of thousands and thousands of people. And I think they're able to make their own their decision.
All right, and just to be clear, right now, are there any other symptoms or health conditions that you have not disclosed?
I'm sorry. No, I don't. In terms of the auditory processing and things like that.
In terms of any symptoms related to the stroke or any other conditions, you hadn't disclosed the AFib you were diagnosed with 5 years ago. Is there anything else that is in your health record, any other conditions or symptoms that you have not told voters about?
As far as I know, yeah.
As far as you know, there's nothing else?
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. You've got...
God damn. She's loving it too. She's like, ooh, I got him. Holy fuck, Zach Fox actually predicted it. What the fuck is this? Yeah. I mean, it's Van Lathan. Lathan. He's got more on Kanye. We're going to talk about that in a second.
Got a debate coming up in a couple of weeks. There's been a lot of debate about the debate. Are you committed to showing up on October 25th to debate your opponent no matter what happens?
No, I'm not concerned. I believe that's another opportunity to be transparent, and people can make their own decisions, during the debate.
Sorry, to clarify, are you committed to showing up on October 25th, no matter what your opponent says or does?
Well, yeah, of course I'm going to show up on the 25th.
How has your prep for a moment like this changed from the primary?
Okay, I'm losing my mind. I'm literally fucking losing my mind. Not a single question has been anything beyond... Bro, maybe you need hearing aids, dumbass. Hey, you know who needs fucking hearing aids in this interview? You! You're not hearing what he's saying. You got one question. She's asked the same question in like 11 different ways. Ask a policy question, please. Please, please, please. One policy question. Please, 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 please. One policy question.
Considering the auditory processing issues, some of the issues with speech, what has the prep been like? And are you confident going into that debate?
It's going to be basically the same kind of prepping as it would be for any debate, except I'm just going to make sure that we have captioning.
I think he has the patience of a saint, by the way. It is wild that he is being so patient. It's been 10 minutes now. Still the same shit.
Included in all of it.
How have you been preparing, though?
Practicing and, figuring out the technological issues.
So you've acknowledged your race is very close. Josh Shapiro, who's running for governor, is sort of running away with his race, which indicates that there might be some voters who are thinking about voting for Shapiro and voting for Oz. Why
no, that's not fucking... What? First of all, Josh Shapiro is running against a fucking total kook. Okay, I'm realizing she's just baldest, dude. I'm realizing something right now. She's just baldest. Okay? What do you have to say for the people who are running it down bald, anti-bald ticket? People who will go for Josh Shapiro and then go for Dr. Oz because they both have a full head of hair. I'm sick and tired of acting like that's not the case. Okay, first of all, the difference between Shapiro and Mastriano is 10 points. The difference between Fetterman and Oz is 6 points or 7 points. Okay? There's a reason why Mastriano and Shapiro have been going 10 points versus 7 points. And that reason, of course, is that Doug Mastriano is a fucking psycho. Doug Mastriano is a complete psychopath. Dr. Oz has notoriety. He's a TV celebrity. He conducts himself decently, but you know, he's a gigantic fucking elitist. This notion that he's like running away with it while you're fucking being devastated, you're being clumstered, is crazy. She can frame it is that Mastriano is losing voters that are voting for Oz. Yeah, we're going to do Rick Caruso Italian in a second. Hold on.
I think that the difference in there is that we've had over $20 million unload on us in the last 5 weeks. So of course that's had an impact on the race. And Fox News has all ganged up on us, and every night, in fact, more than every other of the candidates combined, actually, and that's a truth. So that's changed the.
Yeah, they've been ripping into him from the jump because there was a point in time when he was doing better. There was a point in time when he was outperforming Shapiro with respect to Mastriano. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that, actually. I thought that he was. He was part of the reason why Shapiro was doing better, but maybe I was wrong about that. Yeah, I thought early on he was actually outperforming Shapiro. That Senate seat is more important than governor? No, dude. The governor, no. The gubernatorial race is also incredibly fucking important. Are you kidding me? Especially when the stakes are so fucking high. No, dude, a governor has insane amounts of... A governor has so much power, especially if it's a state like Pennsylvania. Are you joking? You get a guy like Doug Mastriano in the gubernatorial, in the governor's seat, okay? You get a guy like that in the governor's seat of Pennsylvania, you're fucking cooked, okay? They're gonna be like, yeah, if you ever vote for a Democrat, we're throwing you in jail.
Dynamic there, true. When the other opponent, Doug Mastriano, hasn't spent any money or any commercials or any kinds of back. So of course that
you can impact. Especially if you have a red state legislature, you can impact decisions that are being taken. Depending on the Supreme Court case coming out of North Carolina, that's gonna be gigantically impactful. But you can literally impact the way that statewide elections are conducted. You can impact abortion laws inside of the state. Like, a lot is at stake in a race like that. And by the way, don't trust me. Trust Mastriano himself.
Doug, I want to understand why the National Republican Party is AWOL when you're running. I mean, in Pennsylvania, Republicans know.
This is the funniest interview. Newsmax has the funniest hosts. Oh, my God.
You are their hope. But the National Party is so dominated by the establishment that they just think you're too honest, too outspoken, and too independent for them. Are they getting over it?
The state party is fantastic, the state GOP, but some of the national ones, you rightly said, I guess I'm not their kind of guy. I served in the Army my entire adult life, love my country. I don't play games. All I care about is the people and the Constitution that I actually fought to defend. And the sad thing, Dick, is that you have to hand it to the Democrats. They stick together. They see how important Pennsylvania is, and they poured about $30 million into this race. And, I'm being, kept strong by the people of the nation, actually. People from
Doug Mastriano has the most Xbox Call of Duty lobby microphone, and also his politics are fundamentally the same as someone, saying slurs that you would often hear from that kind of audio quality.
From across the entire United States have been helping my campaign out quite generously. And it doesn't, Pennsylvania
Doug, people are always asking me, can Trump come back in 24? I wrote this book saying that he can. But he has to win the governorship in Pennsylvania. So I don't care if you live in Pennsylvania or on the moon. This is the guy you need to support because he's the key to unlocking honest elections in the swing state. Thanks for coming on, Doug.
I get to appoint the Secretary of State, and the road to 2024 goes straight through Pennsylvania.
Yeah. There, he said it. There you go. He literally said it. What more do you need? What do you need? He said it. He admitted it. The road to 2024 goes through Pennsylvania, correct, and he gets to appoint the Secretary of State, which oversees the elections in the state of Pennsylvania. There you go. There you have it. That's why the governor position is incredibly important, even before we talk about fucking undermining a woman's right to choose in the state of Pennsylvania.
That really reflects the dynamic, quite to be honest.
So with that, I mean, how confident do you feel about your ability to clinch this thing?
I'm going to run the kind of race that we've run. And of course, it'll be closer, but it's a different kind of race, a different dynamic, and it's a national call that is going to be made at the national level, not just in Pennsylvania. So you have resources, you have PACs, and you have Mitch McConnell and other people involved in bringing in tens of millions of dollars that just are absent in the gubernatorial race.
The president just took a major step on the issue of marijuana decriminalization, pardoning thousands.
Finally. Fucking finally. No, we're moving on. This is good shit. This is important shit.
One second. What can you tell us about those conversations and how momentous this is in your view?
I think it's really, it's going to change the nation in a way.
She's going to be like, but did you hear the president talk about marijuana? Huh? Did you hear him say it? How can we trust your opinion on anything, including the marijuana legalization conversation, if you can't hear well? I'm just saying, did you hear it or not? Especially because Joe Biden has a hard time putting together crafting sentences, and maybe your hearing impairment tool is not going to be able to pick up the subtitles. Was that a good conversation? Fucking deaf guy? Huh?
In terms of our conversation about marijuana and allowing to be on the path to bringing where it should have always been. It should be legalized, and people shouldn't have had their careers damaged for having just simply using a plant and using it in a way that it's legal in some states or it's illegal in others. Those kind of charges carry you for your life. And given that second chance, I think, is what a majority of Americans would want to see happening. And I believe that even in very conservative states like South Dakota, other these kind of states have already voted democratically to make it legalizing it. So it's really not controversial. It's just the right way to go.
Speaking of pardons, as Lieutenant Governor, one of your big jobs, one of the things that you were most passionate and proud of is being head of the Board of Pardons. I know it's something that you really take a lot of pride in, but your opponent has attacked you for some of the moves you made as head of the Board of Pardons, and he's very much trying to make crime an issue in this race. But it's not just Oz, it's also voters. A lot of the voters that I've spoken with list crime as a top issue, and some of those attack ads do seem to be working. Voters have referenced those ads to me. Do you think that your stance on clemency, on crime, might be out of touch with Pennsylvania and with this moment? What do you say to someone who's concerned that this is not the time to relax sentencing, but a time to focus on public safety?
Well, I believe that every person that had some commutation, it's a tiny fraction. It's around a couple dozen out of over 5,000 people in that situation. And every single person voted on this and supported it, from the warden, to the Secretary of Corrections, all the way down to the guards, and all 5 members of the board all voted yes. And the governor did. They signed off on that. So, and I believe in redemption, and I would just ask anyone watching, I would say, if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, the movie, And if you, at the end of the movie, you would vote to have Morgan Freeman's character die in prison, then that's the choice. That's really that you look at the end of it. And if somebody's done 40, 45, or even more than 50 years, and they've had a perfect record, and they have demonstrated a lot of remorse for what's done, I haven't met a single person that said, yeah, Morgan Freeman should die in prison. It's all a choice on redemption and giving somebody a chance to not die in prison that is of any danger to the public whatsoever.
But it's a little bit about priorities, right? And for voters who say, I'd rather prioritize the safety of me and of my kids.
Then what? A fucking 78-year-old man? Like, what the fuck? He's literally saying if you've served a 50-year fucking prison sentence and you have also demonstrated good behavior throughout the 50 fucking years, who's sitting there waiting to come out just so they can do more murders? Also, how will they do more murders? That's always a fun question. It's like, who's going to come out 78 years old, okay, served a 50-year sentence? Who's going to come out and use a walker? Like, what do you think is going on? Dude, this is so crazy.
In and around Philadelphia than prioritizing clemency or lower sentences for criminals. What do you say to those voters?
Well, I actually have a record in fighting crime. As mayor of Braddock here during 4 terms, Braddock has a significant gun violence issue, and I ran for mayor in the first place to be a mayor to fight crime violence. And we went 5.5 years without a murder in town. And we made it effectively by partnering with the police and the community. And we funded the police. We funded the police and created a strong partnership between the police and the community. So I'm the only candidate that I'm actually running on my record on crime, whereas Dr. Oz has never done.
Even on the policy side, he's fucking, he's getting cooked even on that. I mean, she is awful, dude. She is so fucking awful. It is bananas.
Anything about crime except going around and running a bunch of commercials lying about my record. But what's true is that during my time as mayor, I stopped the killing here.
Do you think Democrats have messed up on the issue of crime? Have they hurt their chances because of the defund the police movement, for example?
I don't support the fund, nor I ever have. And so, it's not really relevant to me in this race because I've been a strong proponent for the police and worked with a police department for nearly 14 years.
Do you disagree with how your party, though, has handled the issue of crime?
I'm only going to react to how I handled it and what I've always believed and what I've done.
Speaking of crime and the topic of drugs, Republicans in Congress want to make it easier to put fentanyl dealers in prison by reducing the quantities needed for a mandatory minimum sentence. Given Pennsylvania's devastating problems with opioids,
She's like, what do you have to say to the reality that you want to give every Pennsylvanian fentanyl injections until they all die? Many people are saying that you want to hook every Pennsylvanian up to fentanyl injections.
would you co-sponsor that?
Well, no, fentanyl, should be more stiff. Absolutely. I mean, that's an incredibly deadly drug. And I agree, we have to make sure that if you are a dealer, and you're putting this kind of poison in the community, they have to have stiff penalties on that. They don't have any business being on the street.
So would you potentially co-sponsor and reach across the aisle for this bill?
I'd have to see what's in front of me when it's there. But the bottom is that being an addict, we haven't been able to arrest our way out of, to the addict. But it's actually the pushers and the dealers. That's a completely different issue. And they deserve to be in prison.
On the issue of abortion, this is something that has really rocked the political world, changed a lot of political dynamics. But do you worry potentially about over-indexing on the issue of abortion and not focusing enough on issues like the economy and inflation that voters consistently list as top concerns?
No, I mean, abortion is incredibly important, and it's being very energizing by the electorate. I mean, that's a basic race, I believe, for the last 50 years. And Americans have been outraged, and they believe that their choice belongs with them and not with Dr. Oz or the Republicans, or they need Roe v. Wade. And I support that it belongs with a woman. And inflation is impress. I mean, it is a big issue, but at the end of the day, it is a tax on working people. And
by the way, deflecting away from abortion to talk about inflation literally immediately undermines the number one issue that everyone cares about within the current political races that are happening, only to focus on the number one issue that Republicans care about. Notice how I said the number one issue that everyone cares about is abortion, because abortion is across party lines. Inflation is across party lines as well, but overwhelmingly something that Republicans want to talk about because it benefits them, because they can say it's the Democratic establishment that is causing this. This is directly Republican opposition research.
And at the end of the day, we believe that we have to make more.
Bemji says she's rolling him pro-Israel, pro-police progressive. Brother, be real for a fucking moment, okay? You're out of your mind. Like, I don't like that either, for the record. I don't like John Fetterman's, there are a couple things that I don't like about John Fetterman. You basically described them. But, like, if you're going to fucking follow the ins and outs of electoral politics, how the fuck are you going to shit on John Fetterman? You're in it. You're in the shit just like we are. You know what I mean? This is what you're going to get in Pennsylvania, especially. What are you expecting? He's super pro-labor. Okay, he's a pro-Medicare for all. He's been a big Bernie supporter since the jump. And this interviewer is not, this interviewer is not fucking running around and being like, well, that means nothing, literal nothing. Okay, well, again, I don't see you arming the fucking Vanguard with AK-47s, okay? So good luck on that endeavor if that's your goal from this. But, I am a political commentator. I'm gonna talk a little bit about marginal change every now and then. You know what I mean? And I will go so far as to say that more John Fetterman's ultimately is a good thing, okay? Straight up. John Fetterman is a good candidate, okay? If the Democratic Party was comprised of more John Fettermans, the Democratic Party would unironically be significantly closer to pushing for socializing key aspects of American existence. 100%. Since John Fetterman isn't perfect, we should actually vote for Dr. Oz. I don't think he's saying that. I don't think Bemji is saying that. What I'm simply stating is, leftists need to stop looking at a gift horse in the mouth, okay? But leftists, of course, have this painful inability not to apply the most vicious and bad faith critique to people that are on their side and try to dogpile on everyone as best as possible. My point is, listen, brother, we're already in the zone okay? We're not talking about like fucking Vanguard Party shit. We're not talking about seizing the means of production. We're talking about the Democratic Party's chances in the Pennsylvania Senate race. So if you're in here, you know that's my analysis. You know I'm talking about that. You know my worldview outside of that. But if I'm talking about this and you're trying to fucking bring the conversation back to like some other larger picture, then you're just being ridiculous. You come to Ohio, PA, and be anti-police and anti-Israel, you simply lose the election. Well, not even the anti-Israel thing, not as much, but anti-police certainly. I just can't vote for Fetterman in good conscience. I'm moving to Norway instead. PMing other chatters is weird. I'll say it. In fact, talking in chat is weird. Hasan, I returned sock them. Man, where have you been? People have been calling, the only people that call me communist or socialist at this point, outside of my own fan base, are just Republicans, okay? Pretty much every fucking influencer with a Substack has called me a fake socialist grifter at a certain point in their fucking careers, exclusively because they think that they will develop a career that way. To them, I say, I don't give a fuck. Everybody literally hates socialism. Socialism is considered a pejorative in this goddamn country. You are literally doing a disservice to the cause that you claim to care about. Okay? When I'm covering electoral politics, I'm always going to cover it from a pragmatic point of view. I will always recognize the impact that someone like Bernie Sanders, who otherwise would also be considered a social democrat, if you look at his legislative career, has been profoundly impactful in waking up thousands, hundreds of thousands of fucking young people in this country, even older people in this country, to the realities that socialism is a viable alternative. That's it. That's it. A lot of you don't remember a time when the internet seemed, or not even just the internet, but just American politics seemed to be so fucking lonely. You were out there on your own. There was really not many alternatives out there. There were no like viable leftist alternatives. There were not this many people that were openly stating that they were anti-capitalist. It was not a thing. And that only happened because electoral politics brought socialism back into the fucking mainstream. Especially at a time when contradictions are more apparent than ever before, as a consequence of a candidate that was able to communicate the anger that the working class feels effectively running against a weak candidate like Hillary Clinton. In the 2016 primaries, you saw a genuine movement to mobilize. Well, it happened because capitalism is inherently flawed and it was inevitable. I recognize that. But you're crazy if you think that everyone has the capacity to recognize the inherent contradictions and immediately figure out that the alternative, the appropriate alternative is socialism. If you don't realize, this is a mistake that accelerationists make all the time. Without organizing, without enough people that are educated about their position in society, accelerationism will only accelerate towards fascism, a mechanism of control. Okay? We will, in America, without like a vanguard that you speak of, okay, or without like adequate mechanisms of pushback, we will never actually rise through the ashes of this crumbling democracy and build this socialist utopia. Okay? That's my point.
more things in Pennsylvania and in America. And we need to stand up and push back against corporate greed. And we need to be in touch with how the average day of a Pennsylvanian is, what their life is, compared to my opponent has no idea what inflation is in terms of what it feels like and what it really and how it manifests itself. But our campaign is running on it, and I'd like to point out too, polls have showed every issue from crime to the economy and everywhere down the line have all voted in that poll that they trust my approach and the way I look at it more than they do with Dr. Oz.
They trust your approach more. Is that what you mean to say?
Correct, yeah.
On the issue of abortion, I just want to clarify your position there. Do you believe that the government should be able to set guardrails on abortion, or do you believe that this is a decision that should only be made between a woman and her doctor?
I'm saying that Roe v. Wade should have never fallen, and that should be codified into law. That's my answer on it, and to be absolutely clear.
But you say you want to codify Roe v. Wade, which protects a woman's right to abortion before viability, but allows states to enact abortion restrictions after that. So do you want to codify Roe v. Wade, or do you want to leave the decision just between a woman and her doctor?
I don't know how much clearer I can say. Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. That's the way it should have been. That's the way it was for the last 50 years, and that's the way it should be. And we should, and I would vote, to get rid of the filibuster and deliver that if I was a senator or that kind of a vote.
John, throughout this interview, we talked at this house back in May. We interviewed you and Giselle. Things are very different now. And when people listen to you, it's very clear that you are very much still in recovery. Now, I know you say your doctors tell you that you are good to go. But for people who are watching this and don't...
We're back. There was like a brief intermission. There was a brief intermission of policy, a recognition of policy, albeit for a brief moment, only to go back to the main point of contention, a point of contention that we have completely concocted at this point, and we are milking for everything it has. We're back, boys. We're back to the fucking old shit. Yeah, you talked about marijuana legalization or decriminalization. You talked about protecting abortion. And then we hand-waved that away a little bit and talked about the inflation crisis. And now we're back to, well, what about your brain? Your brain's pretty bad, right? Is this normal law? No, I've never. I'm going to be honest with you. This is like Fox News wouldn't go this hard on Joe Brandon if they had the opportunity to interview him. Fox News would not go this hard on Joe Brandon. They would ask like a couple questions. Like they'll say, many people are saying your cognitive functioning is not, as apt as it once was. What do you have to say to that? Brandon would go, look alive, Jack. Yeah, it's the Mac attack. And then they would fucking turn around and move on to other shit. I don't know if this is like partially because she's just bad at her job, or I don't know if this is just, it's balls to the wall. It's actually balls to the wall in a way that I cannot comprehend. It goes above and beyond. Because even if you wanted to catch him stumbling, right? Even if you wanted to catch him stumbling, even if you wanted him to flub and get a gaff so you can get your wings, right? You can earn your stripes. You went about it in the worst way possible, because when you couldn't catch him gaffing, you just kept hammering the same question over and over and over and over again. And that's a bad interview. She's behaving like all of my fucking insane haters that come into the chat and ask the same question over and over again without a single interest in what my answer is. And when they get my answer and they don't like it because I provide an adequate retort to it, they'll just go, so you're saying, and just make up something entirely different. It's like, yeah, it's like getting interviewed by my fucking gray names, dude. It's crazy.
I don't know what difficulty with speech or auditory processing means. People who have questions, does that mean that you are cognitively impaired or that you aren't going to be up to the job? Don't those voters deserve to know, to see those records, to hear from your physician?
Yeah, she just keeps going keeps going back to the same thing, dude. Over and over again. Top of the hour, 60-second ad break. You no longer want to see those ads. Don't you think that the people of Pennsylvania deserve to no longer see the ads and have an ad-free broadcasting experience? And I'm over here telling you over and over again, if you don't want to see those ads, if you want an uninterrupted broadcasting experience, all you need to do is subscribe. Thank you, Born Dead, for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads. That's one way that you can also no longer see the ads. You know, Bill Laser, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
As I said, you know, my record, so to speak, is what I've spent for the last 20 years here working in public service and getting out in front of thousands of people and having interviews and talking about issues with people and going around all across Pennsylvania. I believe that's transparency.
What about voters that say that's not enough? We have more questions.
That's, I guess, will be decided on election day.
You know, one of the in one of the op-eds calling for you to release your records, this point was made from Dr. Altman, who's a physician and writer covering health and political leaders at the Times for more than 50 years. He said politicians should realize that disclosing limited information about their health can make it more of an issue than full transparency. I know you're tired of answering these questions. Don't you think that if you just released those records and answered those calls, it would be easier to put this to bed?
Once I said, I believe that having our doctors saying that we're fit to do it, and I've demonstrated my abilities and where I'm at, and I'm leaving people up to that choice.
But we haven't heard from your doctors in 6 months.
Bro, at this point, he's like fucking fed up. I hope David Dane is correct, by the way. Thinking of how many Americans have someone they know or someone in their family with a disability or infirmity and realizing that this media-driven hysteria about Fetterman is going to backfire hard. Look, the kind of disability that Fetterman has very clearly does not stop him from doing a good job. Okay? It's not a cognitive disability. It's a hearing impairment. And because that's not good enough for the media, they're trying to eke out anything they can and create more drama. But because he is responding adequately to all the questions and addressing them with the patience and kindness of a fucking saint, really, way kinder than I would ever be in a circumstance like this, they're trying to desperately claim that there is more to it. There's more to it. There's more to it. It's ironic because demonstrably the interviewer herself, at least with the way that she's behaving, lacks the cognitive functions of understanding when a fucking point has been dried up and you're not going to get the answer or something different out of it. And it's pretty awful to just continue hammering that own point over and over again, that same point over and over again, until you wear that person down and they pop off on you so you can be like, look at that. We got him.
But you've seen from me every day, and you've seen our campaign going, all across Pennsylvania and having from them.
have been watching Pennsylvania television a lot while I've been here, and the airwaves are flooded with ads. Some of the newer ads are bringing up an issue that has been brought up several times over the course of the campaign, that 2013 incident where you, and I'm quoting the police report here, pulled a shotgun on an unarmed black jogger. That's come back into the spotlight. Your opponent is trying to use it against you. Oz is trying to court black voters. It's a demographic that you both need if you are going to win this race.
Oh, that's it. That's the final one. That's the final one. Let's go. That's it. I was waiting for this. I was like, you chased a black man with a weapon.
For some people who haven't been tuned in, who are...
Come on, Hasan, too far in a cheap shot? Wait, what? No, I didn't. I could have said way worse shit. I purposely kept it non-ableist. There's no fucking shot you think that that was that looks bad in the way that I replied to that. I purposely kept it very, very... That was a good optical moment, okay? That was a good optics moment. Juice the shit.
Just tuning in and learning about this for the first time. What do you say to them?
Actually, it was discussed extensively during the primary and in other races that I've been in. It's been attempted by an opponents to turn it into an issue, and the truth is, the people of Braddock, a majority black community, they understood what that situation was about. Defending the community, acting as the chief law enforcement officer of the town, and the people had a vote on that in the primary, and winning all 67 counties. The people didn't believe that is being weaponized against me, and because that's not what was the truth.
You've spent a lot of time on the west side of the
She's like, okay, got the answer. Let's move on from that.
State. You're just starting to spend more time.
Yeah, the black jogger that Fetterman actually stopped endorsed John Fetterman.
That's the area where, when I talk to voters, they're less.
Wait, he did what? You didn't know this? This is like the #1 attack ad against John Fetterman. John Fetterman is in a high crime neighborhood, right? There's a lot of gun violence. Braddock. He is the mayor of Braddock. While he's the mayor of Braddock, he hears gunshots. He sees someone running. It's a black jogger at the time. Runs out with a shotgun. He apprehends him without any sort of violence, but he does run out with a shotgun, and he stops him. Turns out, just a black jogger. He didn't know. Okay? He didn't know. And it is fucked up that he did that. They've been trying to fucking go after him for it. They've been trying to go after him for a goddamn, for the duration of this entire campaign. Democrats tried to do it. He admits he's fucked up for it. The guy who was the jogger endorses him. You are way too charitable to him on this. Well, not only do I think that it's a ridiculous story, the guy fucking endorsed him. What do you want? Chatter be like, the jogger was too charitable with him. He endorsed him at gunpoint. No, that's not how it happened.
Less familiar with you in and around Philadelphia. You just made your first stop in Philly very recently since the stroke. Are you confident that especially black voters in Philly are going to show up for you? And what makes you confident?
I believe that our record, and I think
this guy has won like a black town over and over again in the mayoral race. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck do you mean? He was the lieutenant governor. It's just like, it's such a silly fucking take.
People will turn out for us. Particularly, I have a committed record of working within the kinds of communities that have the issues that, you know, parts of Philadelphia has: economic justice, economic development, public safety, public education. You know, all of these issues, you know, I've always made my career about it, as opposed to somebody that lives in a gated mansion and have 9 other mansions that has never spent any time in any of these communities or any of these places, never done anything about fighting against crime, just making empty rhetoric or lies about my record.
Are you soft on crime?
Dude, come on. You literally just, oh, come on. This is the inherent irony within the Republican line of attacks against John Fetterman. On the one hand, they're saying he's vigilante justice. He chased a black man. He's racist. Okay? On the other hand, they're like, he's too soft on crime. He wants black people released from prison to come into your white suburbs. Okay? She is unironically repeating that line of questioning right now. And it's perplexing, especially when you consider that, like, those two things don't go along with one another.
Of course not. I'm actually effective on crime, and I believe in second chances, and I've run on that record.
I can't believe we're already talking about 2024, but of course it's the way of politics these days. Is Biden the best candidate for 2024 for Democrats?
It's going to be determined on who, if I support Joe Biden, if he runs in 2024. But it's his choice and his alone, and I would support him if he runs.
I mean, the latest news here, OPEC just cut oil production, so gas prices are very likely to go up again. And it's something I hear constantly from voters: gas prices, food prices, but filling up that tank is really painful right now. You've called climate change an existential threat, but you've also walked back support for a fracking moratorium here in Pennsylvania, citing the need for energy security. So how would you work with colleagues in the Senate toward climate change legislation while also being pro-fracking?
No, I never walked back through a moratorium. I want to be clear. The moratorium was until, and this was years ago, that they made the appropriate changes and regulations to make sure that they were, with the wastewater needed to be treated, because currently then at the time they were distributing it into the river without having it treated. And now that those laws were made, and then that's when it needs to be okay to continue on that. It was really an environmental issue there until we're properly treating the wastewater, and then after the laws have changed, then I support.
Don't you think the hoodie attire is working against him in this setting? Absolutely not. No, you're wrong. John Fetterman is the type of motherfucker that wears only Carhartt and wears shorts in the winter. Okay? If there's ever been the type of dude that looks exactly like the voters, it's this man. You're crazy. It absolutely works for him, dude. He wears the Pennsylvania uniform.
Fracking, I support the...
I think a lot of people forget that, like, Americans don't usually vote on policy. Okay? This community is obviously different because this community is built around, like, anti-capitalist sentiment and attitudes. So clearly you're going to be more focused and more interested on policy provisions. But most Americans don't vote like that. 80% of Americans vote on party lines. 20% of Americans vote on ideology. Okay? Never forget that. And a lot of Americans on top of that, the ones that are even voting on party lines, vote on vibes. They vote on fucking who you can drink a beer with. who looks like a chill dude. And John Fetterman absolutely looks like a chill dude you could have a beer with, especially if you're a guy from Pennsylvania.
The energy security that we should have in the United States. And I've never taken a dime from the industry. And I had the opportunity to support fracking across the street. The steel mill wanted to put a fracking a will over the street. And I supported it. And I live right across from it. So I've always supported, as long as it's done environmentally sound and making sure that we're not contaminating our waterways.
So in the Senate, how will you hold both of those things? Your push for solutions to the climate crisis while also being pro-fracking here in Pennsylvania?
It's called being the truth. It means that Democrats need to be honest about our energy security, and I've always said about that, and the Republicans need to be ready about climate change. And they're both reals. And we have to find working together and stop weaponizing it against each other and just figuring it out that, right now, fracking and other traditional kinds of fossil fuels are part of our energy portfolio. And as long as we keep transitioning towards green energy, that's the way, I believe it's the way to go forward. But again, there's those two truths. Energy security is critical, but also climate change is also very critical.
So is that an issue where you might break with your party if you were especially a 51st vote?
I'm not really sure I understand your question. In terms of, I'm going to vote on what makes sure that our energy security and that it's affordable for a regular American, and it also puts us right on the right path to generating more and more green energy.
You've criticized Joe Manchin a lot, but if you were the 51st...
Bro, they would never in a million years behave against Joe Manchin in this way, for the record. Like, they would never... mainstream media does not behave like this when it comes to Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is a coal guy. Joe Manchin is in the pocket of the fucking oil and gas industry. They suck him off. They would never attack him like this. That's just makes you think a little bit, okay?
First vote, would you be ready? And are there issues where
I haven't criticized Joe Manchin. That, saying that how he votes, I would vote differently isn't a criticism, with all due respect. It's just saying how you vote is your vote, and I would vote differently, and that's not a criticism. Just saying, that's a different.
Well, if you were the 51st vote, are there issues where you would break with your party?
When it comes to core values like abortion or minimum wage, or that it's the union way of life, for that, I would be that 51st vote. I mean, whatever, kinds of issue, but I'm always going to lean in on really core critical issues that I've run my entire career on as well. Not something that's theoretical.
On the topic of abortion, I just want to briefly ask you about the news coming out of Georgia. Abortion has clearly rocked politics, and it's changing the race in a lot of places. What's your take on what's going on there?
She's just not a good interviewer. She kept asking the same questions over and over again, too. So, I don't think she's a good interviewer.
I'm sorry, could you...
I can repeat that, yeah. Abortion has changed the game in a lot of races right now, particularly Senate races. Right now, it is explosive in Georgia with Herschel Walker's campaign. What is your take on what's going on there and how Republicans are handling the issue of abortion?
Well, they aren't handling it. That's...
Someone said, Montana J, is this reporter even going to address his stroke? It's been almost 3 minutes. Why hasn't she brought up the stroke again? I don't understand. I just wanted the same looping question over and over again. How do you feel about the stroke? How badly did the stroke kill your brain? Do you feel like you're capable of walking? Do you feel like you're capable of thinking? Do you feel like you're capable of hearing?
That's the truth. You know, Dr. Oz likes to make fun of me that I might miss a word, but, you know, he's missed, 2 words, and that is a yes or no on the national abortion ban. And
honestly, okay, here's a conspiracy theory. I think she wanted to give him another stroke, okay? Because I feel like I'm having a stroke by watching the same thing loop over and over again. I think she was paid by the Oz campaign to go there and annoy him until he strokes out again.
it's really a truth. Yes or no? Do I support that? And that's what I've consistently said is that it's a critical issue. And if you're going to be our next senator, you have to give the answer.
That's crazy. I'm glad we're over this. Holy fuck, that was annoying to watch.